Good evening, everyone. I am Candace. Thank you for joining us on tonight for Breathe, a series of conversations, part 5. Tonight, I am joined by the beautiful Leeta Harlem, and I just can't wait to have this discussion with her just to talk about, generational curses, generational healing, therapy, especially in the African American community. So, Leeta, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I'm just so thrilled that you're here.
Thank you so much. I am honored to be here.
Thank you. So I'm going to open us up with a word of prayer, and then we're going to go ahead and dive in. Father God, we just come to you just thanking you for another day. We thank you for the activity of our limbs. We thank you for the breath in our bodies. We thank you for the warm blood that's flowing through our veins. We thank you for this space that you have created for Alita and I to just openly share our journeys and our passion for mental health, to encourage and to inform and to educate and to just encourage someone to just be here, to just see tomorrow, to keep giving tomorrow another chance, and to know that it's okay to not be okay and that there are resources and tools out here that are available to them. So Holy Spirit, just work through us and just be able, give us the strength and the power and the authority to talk to your sons and daughters on such an important topic. And we ask all of these blessings in Jesus' name. Amen. So again, I just want to say thank you for joining me. And I know we both are authors and we both, are open and transparent about our journeys and our battles, dealing with mental health and what has sparked our passion. And I know for me, it took a while to get to this place. It took a while for me to get here, to share my journey, to say fully and without, holding anything back, to say, hey, I haven't been okay for a while, and this is why I haven't been okay. This is why I haven't fully shared my voice in spaces where I should have been able to. And I think, with mental health, I believe that we're doing a better job in getting the information out there to show the seriousness of it. But I also believe that it's still stigmatized. It's still not as embraced as it should be. And that was one of the reasons that I know I wrote my book, was to put a face to it, to say, hey, I'm Candace and I battled with depression. I'm Candace and I battled with substance abuse. I'm Candace and I battled with anxiety. But look at the goodness and the grace and the mercy of God that I'm still here to be able to use my voice and to share my voice in these spaces. And, me writing my book, Breathe, taking readers on that journey of darkness with me to finding the light and what that looks like for me. So for you, because I know, as I stated before, you're an author as well. And before I ask you this question, I just want to share a little bit more about you. Okay. So Leeta Harlem is an author of Celebrating a Legacy of Courage and Resolve, and I Can Fix My. She is an event coordinator, a motivational speaker, a women's group facilitator for domestic violence. In 2009, Leeta became the host and producer of the local TV show Big Sis and Company, focused on the issues, which ran for 3 years in Fairfax, Virginia, and Baltimore, Maryland. Leeta is also the host and the producer of the YouTube series Pivotal Moments with Leeta, and CEO and founder of her own companies entitled Big Sis and Company and Keep the Box LLC. Leeta has received various community awards, including Women of Power, Domestic Violence Awareness, Successful Women, and from Old Navy, and an award plaque from the town of Dumfries, to name a few. She continues to do various speaking engagements, workshops, and also spends her time volunteering in the community to help people enhance and improve their lives. So you're a powerhouse. You're a powerhouse. So what sparked your passion for mental health, and what has this journey been like for you?
Wow. So, thank you again so much for that introduction. I really would say that it started back when I was 18. That was really
Mhm,
my first time really dealing with depression, and
mhm,
it was through a suicide attempt. And
mm,
at the time, the background, which I know we're going to talk a little more about later, we didn't talk about depression. We didn't talk about
right,
what that looks like, and I was facing just a huge disappointment in myself. And I didn't know really any other way out. I really felt like if I couldn't be this perfect daughter, this perfect, Christian, this perfect
mhm,
I wanted to be, then it wasn't worth me living. That's just how bad it was. And so I attempted suicide, and I was in the hospital, and they had to pump my stomach. And I'll never forget the moment that my mom came in, and they're pumping my stomach, and she's like, "What? Why would you do this? You've been the perfect daughter. What's wrong?" And it was in that moment that we all kind of realized that's the problem.
Yeah.
That's really what just started my interest in mental health. There's been many, processes and ups and downs and journeys and therapy. But that was really the start where I even became acquainted with what mental health and depression really is all about.
So after that moment, and I'm just so thankful that you're still here to share that, because being in those dark moments where you believe that the best decision, and let me say this again, being in those dark moments where you believe that suicide is the option for you, because it took me a while to change my language to say, I don't believe any of us commit suicide, because it's like, you don't commit to that, because it's like, you don't want to do that, but it's your mind is telling you that this is the best choice.
Exactly.
Um, to still be here, it just speaks volumes about you as a person and your character and your strength and the hand of God that's still on your life to just be here to share that. So being in that dark space, did therapy come right after, or what tools, if any, at that time, right, immediately following, did you take a grab of, like, take a hold of?
And I love that you asked that question, because initially there weren't any tools. Again, at that time, just the culture and the culture of my family itself, we didn't believe that you go to therapy, you don't talk about
Right.
it, you don't air your dirty laundry, all those, cliches. And so at that time, I just kind of pushed my way through it. I remember it taking almost a year before I was actually glad that I hadn't been successful in taking my life. Um, so
Mhm.
ended up, yeah, and I ended up, just kind of getting through that particular time the best way that I could. And I
Mhm.
ended up getting married. And, I was in this abusive relationship, and I was in that marriage for about 8 years. And when I left, I found myself right back at that spot, right back at that dark place. And then once again, I was in the hospital on suicide
Mm.
watch. Yeah, yeah,
So it was a cycle for you. It's like our stories mirror a lot. It was like a revolving door. It's just like once you were triggered or once pain was present, your mind went to death.
yes. Ex-
So what happened in your journey where there was a shift that you said, hey, there's a disconnect here, or I'm not thinking rationally, or why is it that when pain is present, my mind goes dark?
Right. And again, this we're talking a huge process. And at that time, when I ended up in the hospital on suicide watch, that was the first time that it was ever discussed about therapy, about
Mhm.
medication. And so that's when I started therapy. And I tell anyone, just like with any other type of doctor, you'll have really, really good ones, and then you'll have ones that maybe don't work. And I've gone through the process of different therapists and all of that. But what I think the biggest thing that it taught me is that I don't have to stay in that dark place. I don't have to
Mm.
accept that this is what it has to be. And
Right,
so, yeah,
right.
exactly. And so that's what I think one of the biggest turning points for me was
Mm.
realizing, you know what, I can get help, I can get therapy, I can talk through this, and I can change the way that, like you said, that my brain operates when I'm feeling
Yes.
this.
And a lot of times we don't understand how our brains work and how our brains are made out of like plastic. Like it can be rewired, you know, it can, and to know that there's tools out there to help us, such as therapy, to get us out of those dark moments.
Yeah.
So shifting gears to discuss generational curses. I believe within the African American community, especially women, um, we've been conditioned and taught to be strong. to, carry the weight of the family on our backs, to, if life knocks you down, baby, you get up and you keep on moving. You hear all of these, and I'm pretty sure you can throw out some other things that you've heard personally or just in spaces, that it goes back generations,
Yeah.
that, you just keep on moving. You don't let anything, knock you down. I know, I've heard for the longest time, don't cry, and even I know you've probably heard this, stop crying before I give you something to cry about, or whatever you've heard, it's just like, no, I have a reason to cry right now. I have a reason to be hurt. I have a reason to not be okay. And I think for me, it's just like I'm starting to have those conversations with my family, and it's just like it's being received, but I know that that's not the case for everybody. So for you personally, have you had to enforce boundaries? Have you had to have those painful, challenging conversations?
Absolutely. And when I went through that particular time, and when I was in the hospital on suicide watch, and coming out of that, it was a battle, because my family didn't understand. No one could understand. Well, why are you so depressed? Okay, you left the abusive situation.
Mm,
Understand this. And so I spent years explaining and justifying why I was depressed and why I felt bad and why I needed help.
and
And
that's exhausting in itself.
exactly. And that, I truly believe,
Woo!
contributed to a lot of why I stayed down so long. But I will say that, by me utilizing these different resources and
Yeah,
learning that, what, number one, honestly, I don't have to justify to anyone why I'm depressed. And I'm saying it like it's simple, but that's a huge place to get to, right? As I'm sure
huge. Yeah.
huge. And it's like, once you get there and once you accept that, you may choose to explain to certain family members, what have you, but then
Mhm.
they don't get it, because chances are they're not going to
They're
get it.
not going to get it.
My mom, like, we can talk about depression a lot easier now, but she still has, it's just that glitch. It's like, that's just not what they were raised, like you said, they weren't raised to accept it and to deal with it. So it's like,
Mhm.
sometimes, I may be having a down moment and she'll
Mhm.
really won't see it. Is, oh, okay, so you're okay. And it's like, not,
Yeah.
but they're conditioned differently. And I think the biggest thing for me, and what I encourage to other people, what, it's fine. You don't have to get it. You don't have to understand it. It's not your journey. This is my journey, and I accept it and I understand it. I'm gonna get the resources, which I'm huge on therapy. I'm gonna get the resources that I need so that I can stop it with myself and any generations that come after me that I'm trying to influence.
Yeah, and I know I always tell people about, because I have two boys, and I always say, I'm doing the work now to put a stop to those generational curses, but to also give rise to generational healing. I don't want my boys to heal the way I healed. I don't want them to turn to substance abuse. I don't want them to turn to a woman. I don't want them to turn to things that I turned to heal. And I realized that, our children are watching us. So it's just like, why is mommy always sad? Why is mommy always crying? Why is mommy always drinking? Why is mommy? And it's just like, Candace, in order for you to see not only your sons, but your sons' sons and their sons' sons, you have to do something now. And I think that those generational curses that we're speaking of, and how we've been conditioned within, our community, has stigmatized mental health in a lot of ways, because it's just like, you don't treat people that have a physical illness the way you would people that have a mental illness. And I remember someone telling me, when, I attempted suicide, around this time, where it was December of 2019, so around the holiday season, how selfish of you. Like, did you ever think about your boys? How selfish of you. And in my mind, I'm like, I'm doing this for my boys. Like, I felt like I believed in my mind that they would be better off without me. I believed in my mind that I was a horrible person. I believed in my mind that I was a horrible mother. I was horrible in every aspect of my life, because those were the lies the enemy was telling me, and that's what I was believing. So I thought I was doing them a favor. But again, that was because of the sickness that was going on within me, that I couldn't see past my pain. I couldn't see past my trauma. I couldn't see past my abuse. So how did you shift to see past everything that you've gone through in your life?
It really has just taken work. And, one of the things that I've come to really appreciate, and a lot of what my second book talks about, is these belief systems that we tell ourselves, right? And that however they came about, whether that's learned, whether that's because someone actually said these things, but at the end of the day, it's about how do I see myself? And like you said, being suicidal is because you don't see the value you bring. You don't
You
see
don't.
a way out. This is what you feel like is an option that is better for everybody. But when
Mm,
you start to really believe in who you are and you see yourself, one, the way that God sees you, and you really begin to accept that and you recognize that, and you hold on to your value, that's where the change takes place. And I tell anybody, you know what, when I wrote the second book, I
mhm.
was depressed, when I was
So you
finishing.
wrote it through your depression.
Yes. And that's
So
what I
you wrote it for yourself, but then you're blessing so many others.
Yes,
Wow.
yes. And one of the things that even I've talked about with my therapist, you know, we also have to change the mindset that being better means we don't get depressed. No,
Mm,
we are still human beings. We are still going to be impacted by circumstances, situations. We're still going to have dark days or down days, but it's changing how we view those times. I now recognize I can have a bad day. I can feel bad. I can feel low. Back in August, I had a miscarriage. You know what? I
mm,
was sad about that. I was really down about that. But what I now know is I'm going to get through that. It's not the end.
yeah.
It doesn't define who I am. And that's where the shift happens. That's where it really
Mhm.
takes place.
Yeah, to see yourself past that. And I know for me, um, I always get this question. I say it all the time because it's like it's a question that when you're not on the other side of your pain and your trauma and your abuse, it's like you're stuck in this, will I ever be healed? Will I ever be complete? And I know for me, I always say it's a journey. Like once I deal with this trigger, there's another one I know I need to deal with. It's like it's a journey, but I'm becoming better. So what do you do when you have those moments? Because I'm pretty sure you do, and because I know when I have those moments, the thing, even when I'm in the moment, I realized, Candace, what did you just say? A moment. This is just a moment. It's just a day, or it's just because when I used to be triggered and have those depressive episodes, Leeta, it used to be like weeks at a time before I could like come out of that. Like it would be weeks at a time. Now it's like maybe like a few minutes, an hour, depending on what it is. It's like it's not absorbing all of me anymore. So what do you do when you have moments now? Like what does it look like for you? Do you journal? Do you write? Do you call someone? Do you call your therapist? Like what does that look like for you?
It may be one of all of those things. And here's the biggest thing for me. I have learned to give myself permission to have the moment. And see, for me,
Wow.
yes, and my mom and I were actually just talking about this because of how I was brought up and how things were conditioned. Like I said, my first suicide attempt, because I felt like I was letting people down. I was no longer this perfect person. So
Yes.
for me, one of the biggest triggers is this belief that I couldn't have a down moment, that I
Yeah.
had to be everything for everybody. And if in any way I fell short of that, then I completely lost my value. Learning that it's okay to have a moment, whether that's a few minutes, whether that's a day, it might even be a week. Like I said, life happens and there are some scary
Yeah.
things that can happen in life. But I'm going to tell you, that has been the game changer for me. You know
Yeah.
what? I may be down for the day. Maybe it's just a bad day. That's okay. I'm going to embrace it. I'm going to get in my blankets. I'm going to
Yeah.
Hamilton or
Yeah.
whatever I need to do, but I'm
Yeah.
embrace that moment. And you know what? If someone calls and they're like, are you okay? You're not smiling. It's not a good day. I feel
Yeah.
okay now. I've given my permission to say and own these are my true feelings. I'm going to
Mm.
And you know what? That's been what's changed things for me.
Yeah, and it takes a while, to get there. So, like, kudos for you for getting there, because I know for me, it's just like using my voice now, as you said, like giving yourself permission. But then also with that, knowing that you're giving yourself permission, you're not giving others permission to understand it. And I think that for me, that was the disconnect, because it's just like, all right, Candace, you mastered half of that, of like giving yourself space to have those moments, to not be okay, to have those bad days. But now you have to also, on the other side of that, like you said, if someone calls and they're like, what you having a bad day for? Like, and then try to list off the reasons why you should have a good, okay, yes, that list of good things are there. But for right now in this moment, this is what, it's hard to articulate that to others, but you know what you're feeling. And it's just like to give yourself space to not be okay, and to also give others grace to say, you don't even have to understand it. I'm not asking for you to understand it. That is the other side of it. So it's like to have both of them come together, like you said, to give yourself permission, but to also give others permission not to understand.
Exactly. That's it. That's it. And there's such a peace in that. There really is.
Yeah, and I think that peace that is present, I think that's the best thing to have, because even in those moments where I'm not okay, I still have peace. And I didn't have peace before. It was just like, all right, Candace, you're not okay. It's just a moment. But it's like I could feel God's like goodness and grace and just arms around me, like even in those moments. And I think for you, what would you say would be some of the myths that you've heard or stigmas that you've come across on this journey of using your voice when it comes to your struggles, to your battles, to your journey?
I think the biggest myth is that, people really discount depression. Um,
Mhm.
and they really don't understand what that means. That's been the biggest thing, trying to overcome what people think is just, oh, you can get over it, you can push past it. I've had so many times people say that. I had one person one time say, well, you're the happiest depressed person I've ever seen. And people don't realize how ignorant they actually are being.
I never heard that one.
But it's just, I mean, it really truly is ignorance. They just don't understand. And
Yeah,
when I choose to try to help someone understand, if I really believe that they genuinely want to understand, when I make it physical, they get it.
mhm,
When I tell them,
yes,
okay, you wear glasses, take your glasses off, read this. Well, I can't read it. Well, no matter how much I tell you, go ahead and read it. Go ahead and read it. What's wrong? You don't really want to read it. None of that's going to make a difference because you are limited without those glasses. When
right.
I have those kind of conversations and I make it something tangible,
Yeah,
that's when those who truly want to get it, that's when they see
okay. Yeah, I was having a discussion with my friend and he didn't understand, he's just like, well, Candace, we all have anxiety. We all overthink. We all, like, why does there have to be a label on it? Like, why does it have to be, depression or this? And I like, the way I explained it is just like, okay, there's a spectrum, right? You can have a healthy side of things and you can have an unhealthy side of things. Yes, we all can overthink. We can all, question. Yes, we all experience sadness. But those that are on the other side of the spectrum, when they experience that, they can cause harm and hurt to either themselves or to others. So for me, it's just like that is the best way to explain it, because it's like when I'm depressed, this is what I do. When you're sad, you may be able to do this and then just go back about your business, but you're doing it in a healthy way. So think about somebody that's sad and that's coping through life in a healthy way compared to someone that's on the other side of the spectrum and they can't see past their pain, their trauma, their abuse, and this is what they do.
that's it.
So it's
It-
like you said, sometimes you have to explain it in that way because people don't understand what they can't see.
that's
So
it.
it's like if you see someone that has, been physically abused, you treat them differently than someone who has been mentally or emotionally abused because you can't see their wounds. But the person that has been physically abused, you can see their wounds, but it's hard to articulate the wounds when you can't see them.
Bottom line, that's exactly it. That's exactly it.
Yeah, when you can't see them. And I know for me, it took a lot of conversations, with those close around me to say, hey, this is what I experienced and this is what it did to me.
Yeah,
And give me the same grace that I am extending to you, to me. Because I always say, like, what may be tolerable for Leeta may be terminal for me. So it's
exactly.
like I had to realize and tell people, stop comparing journeys, stop comparing pains. Yes, you went through a divorce. Yes, I went through a divorce, but you may have like chucked the deuces at the courthouse and was happy ever after, but you don't know what that triggered within me, the little girl within me that has been always left, that has been abandoned, that has rejection issues. You don't understand what that did to me. So it's just like you can't compare journeys and say, well, I don't know why she's in a rut because I went through that and I was able to do X, Y, and Z. And I think that goes to the lack of knowledge and understanding. And like you said, the ignorance surrounding mental health, to say, yes, you may have went through the same thing, but it impacted us differently.
Right. I mean, and again, we can apply that. This, like you said, physically. Look at COVID, right? They don't
Right.
understand it's the same type of thing, right? One person may get it
Yeah.
and they may have the sniffles. Another person gets it, they have no symptoms at all. The next person gets it and they're
Yeah.
in the hospital about to die. Like this, that
Right.
is the same thing, right? We can
Right.
now use even that to help people understand it impacts people differently. And that's something physical that scientists are very much studying,
Yeah.
and they don't even know why it impacts people differently. So it's
Yeah.
the same thing
We're all
with
made up differently.
exactly.
Yeah, we're all physically made up differently, and we're all of our brains are wired differently. We all have different experiences. So with that, my last question to you is, what would you tell someone right now that's battling with their mental health, especially with, the holiday season? Like, what tools, resources, or what would you tell someone that's watching that's having a hard time right now?
I would say that, first of all, it's okay that there's nothing wrong with you because you're having a hard time right now. The second thing I would say is you can get help. And I know that may seem like the biggest mountain that you ever had to climb, but I promise you, climbing that mountain and getting the help that you need, it is worth it, because the freedom that you can have to feel better is so much worth it. So if you can just hang in there, push harder, look for those resources, tools, therapists, good friends, someone that you can talk to and talk through what you're going through, it is worth it. And you can feel better.
Yeah. So how can everyone follow you? How can anyone get in contact with you? And I know you're an amazing author. How can people, can you tell us a little bit about the books that you've written?
Absolutely, I will. So I have them here. So it's the first one is Celebrating a Legacy of Courage and Resolve. And then the second one is I Can Fix Mine. And both of them, the first one really talks about the legacies of my mom, my grandmother, and my aunt, and
Mhm.
the things they went through, the depression, the abuse, the things they went through and came out on the other side, and the lessons that they learned and passed.
Mhm.
The second book is really more so designed to take that personal look inside. Okay, these legacies were left to me, but now how do I get the courage? How do I fix myself and not feel like I have to pour into everyone else, instead of putting that energy into fixing these things that are wrong with me, why I end up in toxic relationships
Yeah.
or things that harm myself. So
Mhm.
that's what that second book is really about. And I have portions in each part where you can actually do the work. You can actually write down answers to certain questions so that you can actually physically start to do the work to repair yourself. So I'm super excited. Both have gotten really great reviews and helping people all over. And really, you can just look up on my website, which is my name, liletaharlem.com. So it's Liletta, Harlem, like the city.com. And there you can find all of my merchandise, my books, the boxes that I do. And then you could also put my name in Amazon and you can get both books there. So it's under Lilita Harlem.
Well, thank you so much for like just joining me tonight. And like I said, this is such a special topic of mine for personal reasons, as I know it is for you as well. And I just thank you for just using your voice and sharing, your journey. And I know at times it's not easy. to do so, but the fact that you're still doing it and you're sharing your voice and you're trying to help, people in their own struggles, in their own battles, to get them on the other side, and then even once they're on the other side, to keep encouraging them to keep going. It's just admirable, and I just want to just say thank you for all that you're doing, because it's amazing.
Thank you so much. And kudos to all that you're doing and the getting to through your journey and sharing your voice. You've just in the time of meeting you, you've been an inspiration to me. So thank you. And thank you for having me on your platform.
No problem. So thank you again. And again, everyone, I am going to put all of her information down below. So check her out. She has two amazing books. And like she said, she has these boxes that she creates. So I am going to put all of her information down below and check her out. All right. Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.